Hello, my name is Lillian Jones. My traditional name is Selhamia. Today I'd like to talk about Edgar Morin's article, 7 Complex Lessons in Education for the Future. I am a believer and a lover of good quotes, so I am going to be sharing a lot of the quotes directly from Edgar throughout this presentation. The first one that I'm going to say that I like is education supplies knowledge, but it doesn't supply, not even at universities, a reflection on what knowledge really is. Edgar's 7 complex lessons are: 1. Detecting error and illusion. About this, he says, if we can hope for basic progress in the 21st century, it would be that men and women could stop being the unconscious toys of their ideas, and not only their ideas, but their own self-deception. The major responsibility of education is to arm every single person for the vital combat of lucidity. That's deep. This guy is really deep. And it's actually only been, as of recent, that his work has been translated into English, as he is a French philosopher. Okay, his second complex lesson is Principles of Pertinent Knowledge. The treasure in human diversity is human unity, and the treasure in human unity is human diversity. He said that in his YouTube video when talking about this lesson. I really like that. One of my friends had said, there is not a truer paradox that has been spoken. Number 3, teaching the human condition. We must teach what it means to be a human and the connection to the natural world. I agree. Number 4, Earth identity. On the level of planetary humanity, we are engaged in the essential task of life, which is to resist death. Today, the fundamental global objective of all education is to civilize the unity of the earth and transform the human spirit, the human species, into genuine humanity. Number 5, confronting uncertainties. I like this one because we don't really ever know what's promised for tomorrow or if we'll have it tomorrow. Everything that involves chance involves risk, and thought should recognize the chance of risks as the risks of chances. Again, very deep. Number 6, understanding each other. There are 2 types of understanding: intellectual or objective, which comes from a text or some type of ology. And the second is human intersubjective, to understand human beings. What a gift to be able to do that. Number 7, ethics for the human genre. While the human species pursues its adventure under the menace of self-destruction, the imperative has become to save humanity by realizing it. Here he is right here, this guy. Okay, so the problems that he's talking about in his article is that basically we need to change the education system. It's a really ancient, old system. We're historic, living in history here. And I like this comic. It says, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. It's a good comic. And as you can see, there's a goldfish, an elephant, a penguin, a monkey, a bird, and it looks like it could be a dog. And they all have to climb the tree in order to be educated. That's what it feels like being a teacher, for sure. So his quote around that is, the intention of these lessons is simply to identify fundamental problems that are overlooked or neglected in education and should be taught in the future. I agree. He's good. So the nature of all of these problems, you know, how we're still using this old ancient education system, there are two he talks about. One of them is that the policies that were birthed are from old beliefs like this one. Long considering itself profiteer of rationality, Western Europe judged all other cultures in terms of technological performance and saw nothing but error, illusion, and backwardness in other cultures. There's also a disconnection. That is the other notable example of the nature of the problem. Our situation on this earth is paradoxical. Interdependence is multiplied. Awareness of being united is life and death. It connects us to each other. Communication is triumphant. The planet is crisscrossed with networks, fax lines, portable phones, modems, internet. And yet, general incomprehension is still the rule. Oh. Okay, we were all humans until race disconnected us, religion separated us, politics divided us, and wealth classified us. How true. And we need to move away from that system. Okay, so what can one person do to make these lessons a reality in their life? Well, he defines life as a double polarity between 1, prose, and 2, poetry. Prose is doing things that we have to do, that we don't necessarily enjoy. It's about survival. So for example, my daughter and I, we don't like to go to school, but we're going to do it because, well, we need to, because education makes our life better. We're believing our ancestors on that one. 2, poetry. It fulfills us. It keeps us alive. Edgar believes that our role as educators is to help people develop their capacity to enjoy life. What an awesome responsibility. I'd like to note that we must stop identifying education with high productivity, with the mercantile and the professional, and return to Jean-Jacques Rousseau's idea that learning to live means learning to live poetically. Yeah, Edgar Morin stated that in his article. So how does he contribute to the discussion of education? Well, in my opinion, he urges dialogue about cultures, about what's important to people. He wants us to talk about what's important to each other in order that we move away from being individualists and egocentric. The misunderstandings that are born are getting worse, the ones we just mentioned. We need to be and teach how to be kind, self-observant, self-critical, aware of each person practices self-deception. We have to know all sides of a person, and that we need to be aware of complexity in each person, community, society, and the planet. That's how I believe he contributes. The limits and blind spots and the improvements that I think that he could meet in his article is to talk a little bit more about the colonized, the people that are less than. He mentions them, and he mentions them very clearly. However, it's kind of like one of those things where it's a sentence in an article. I'd like him to really elaborate on that. So my question, if I met him, I would ask, Mr. Edgar Morin, the story that I'd like to share with you is that for 6 months I'd asked my own elders about their thoughts on special education and how the elders suggest that I or my colleagues move forward with students who are in middle high school with daycare reading levels. I finally got their message after 6 months of asking them and asking them and asking them, and they tried to tell me and tell me and tell me, and I didn't hear. I wasn't listening with my heart. I was listening with my ears. So once I got to my heart, I realized that our ancestors believe that our students are dealing with complex social histories that leave them with tougher walls to break through. It's going to take time and patience by an educator. And we will, as educators, have our moments to teach. In that time, we just build the trust. I'd really want to know what he thinks about that, about the elders' teachings here in the Holmoch territory that I live in. I think that this article and his ideas, his complex thoughts, his complex lessons, advanced discussions in education, because we could use his thoughts to advance students forward in the student's own time. We don't want to mock the student's intelligence or the teacher's skills or the parent's faith in the education system or society's hope for a working class as a common thread that holds us all together, hoping for a better future for the next generation. I have these questions after reading this article, after thoroughly watching the video, thinking about it, reading it, and thinking about it some more. Can we host programs that allow students to move at their own pace with no penalties? Can we perform these programs in both band-operated and public school systems? If a student has a lower reading level, can they have intensive intervention with teachers who are trained to move students forward? Can elders be a presence in the school, in reading groups, in science class, in math class, and electives? Can we have healing programs in our schools? That's what I wondered, along with all these other great things. Edgar Morin contributes to the discussion of Indigenous and non-Indigenous education by, again, he really wants us to talk about culture, and I just want to end there because I think that's a really good place to end. Thank you for listening to me. Please forgive me. I would like to ask you the questions that I'd asked before. Do you think we could have programs in both public and band-operated schools that allow students to move at their own pace with no penalties? Could we do this? What do you think? Could we have elders as a permanent presence in our schools 10 months a year? Could we do that? Could we have healing programs in schools to help students along the way that are going to take longer to build trust? Can we do these things? Hechka, CM.